So in today's screencast, we're going to look at arrays in the microbit. So an array is a container that holds a fixed number of items of the same type, and this is really important because they must all be of the same type. So you can have things like an array of numbers or an array of strings to hold the names of the days of the week, or an array of numbers that holds your student numbers or something like that. So again, it's just the important thing here is that they're all the same type and they're all stored in one variable. And then because it's one variable, we have to have a way of accessing each of the individual elements of an array. And so we use an index here, and it's 0 based. So the first index is 0. So if you've got an array with 5 things in it, then the indices that you would use to access those 5 things are 0 for the first one, 1 for the second, 2 for the third, 3 for the fourth, and finally 4 for the fifth. So it's a little bit different to what you might have seen before, but basically an array is a list of some type, and it's just a way of storing a list of some type in a programming language. So again, microbit has this ability to have an array. So we're going to just have a look at a couple of projects, and by looking at those projects we'll see how we can use arrays. Now I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on arrays here. There's lots of other things you can do with it. I just want to, I suppose, introduce the concept of an array and just briefly look at how we might use some of the things that are in an array to store various different things. So in our first project, we're just going to display some numbers. So we're creating a new project again. At the start, we're going to create an array of numbers to hold the values 5, 7, and 9. And then when the A button is pressed, we're going to show what's in the first index, so index 0. When the B button is pressed, we're going to display the value at index 1. And finally, when the A and B button are pressed together, we're going to display the value at index 2. So when we press the A button, we should see 5. When we press the B button, we should see 7. And finally, when we press the A and B buttons together, we should see 2. Sorry, we should see 9, because that's at index 2. So we'll just go to makecode.com now and create that project. So we're here in makecode.com, and we're going to choose microbit. And then we're going to create a new project. So this time we are actually going to use the onStart block, but we're not going to use the forever. So we're just going to pull that across and delete it. So now we're going to create a variable. So we're going to make a variable, and we're just going to call it list. And we're going to click OK. And then we're going to go down to arrays here under advanced. So normally you'll just see advanced like this, and if I just click on advanced, it opens it up, and I can just go arrays, and I can set list to. So again, I'm just going to pull it across. Now you'll notice here, I'm just going to go through some of these blocks before we actually create what we're creating. So here we're set list to array of 1, 2. So this is a numeric array, so this is just going to hold numeric values. And then we've got a text list to array of A, B, C, and we can add in extra values or take out some of the values if we don't want to have as many in it. And it's the same in the numeric ones. Now again, you can call them different things. I've just created my array called list, but you can call it something different, and then it will just give you that option. You can check to see what the length of your array is. You can get the value at a particular index, and we're going to see that in a little while. You can set the value at an index to something different if you want. You can add a value to the end, so you just put in your value there and it'll just put it in at the end. You can get and remove the last value from a list if you want to. You can find the index of a particular value. You can get or remove the first value, and then you can insert something at the beginning. So there's a number of different things, but we're just going to keep it quite straightforward. So this is really just an introduction to arrays, just to show you the idea. So here I'm going to set list to array of, so I'm just on start, set list to array of 5. The other value is 7, and then I want another one. So if I click the plus here, it just adds in a new one, and I just put that 9 there. So that's going to give me an array called list with 3 values in it. The first value is 5, the second value is 7, and the third value is 9. The indices to access each of those values, to access 5, I'm going to use index 0. To access 7, I'm going to use index 1. And finally, to access the 9, I'm going to use index 2. So now that I have that set up, I'm just going to go to my input here. And remember we said on button A pressed, we want to show the value at index 0. So I'm just going to go back down to arrays here. And you see the way here you can get list get value at 0. So if I go back up to basic here and I want to show my number, so just click bring across show number, and then instead of the 0 I'm just going to go down to arrays. You see I can get value at 0. So show number list get value at 0, and if I press my A button now, so I'm going to test as I go, so it gives me the 5. So on start it set up my array. When the A button is pressed, it's going to get the value at 0. I'm just going to right click on this and duplicate it, and I'm going to change the A to a B, and this time I'm going to show number list get value at 1. So this time it should show me a 7 when I press the B button. So again, it's just restarted. I'm going to click the A, it gives me the 5, click the B, and it gives me the 7. And I'm just going to duplicate it again. And this time I'm going to do button A plus B pressed, and the index I'm going to use is 2. So here again it's going to restart. My A works, it's still 5, my B is still 7, and then the A and B together is 9. So that's just a very simple project, just showing you how to create an array. So you must create your variable first, then you set that variable to either a numeric array or a text array as we saw, and then you can just access your value. So in this case we're just accessing the value. So when the A button is pressed, we're getting the value at 0. When the B button is pressed, we're getting the value at 1. And finally, when the A and B together are pressed, we get the value at 2. So in this next project, we're going to revisit the sorting hat, but we're going to use an array to store the values of the houses within Hogwarts. So we're going to create an array of strings called houses or something. I've said called list there, but we call it houses, to hold the values Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw and Slytherin. And then on shake we're going to pick a random number between 0 and 3, and then we're going to use that number as the index into our array. So here we have Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw and Slytherin, so that's 4 values that we're holding within the array, 4 string values, and we are then going to have indices 0 to 3. And once we have that index, then we're going to display the string at that index within the array. So we'll just go to makecode.com now and code that. So we're going to go to home here. Now it's asking me to give the project a name, and this one was just array list or array numbers, so I'm just going to call it array numbers just so that I know that's what it is. So I'm going to save that, create a new project. So again here I am going to create a variable, and I'm going to call it houses, and I'm going to click OK here, and then I'm going to go down to arrays here, and I'm going to pull across this text list. So I'm going to pull across the set text list. I'm going to get rid of the forever there out of my way, and then I'm going to just click on the arrow beside the text list, and now I should see houses there. So I'm setting houses to array of, and I'm going to call it, so I'm just going to put the G, the H, the R, I'm just going to add one here, so click plus and just put the S there. Alright, so this is Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw and Slytherin. So that is my array of strings here. And then I'm going to go back up to input, and I'm going to say on shake I'm going to make a variable here, and I'm going to call it house. Maybe house num or something, or house index. I'll just call it house index, just so that it's different from houses, because if you have house and houses you might get a little bit confused by it. So I'm just going to use house index, and I'm going to set house index to, and then I'm going to go to math, and I'm going to pick random 0 to 10, and I'm going to change the 10 to 3. And then all I need to do is go back to arrays, and I am going to get the value at. So here I'm going to show string, and I'm going to get the value at, so I'm just going to drop that in there, and I'm going to say houses, get the value at, and I'm going to go to variables. So I'm saying get the value at house index, so that's either 0, 1, 2 or 3 of the houses array, and show that. Now again, I'm just going to do a little bit of showing things so that I know what I've got. So I'm just going to show number, and I'm going to show the house index first, just to make sure that it's pulling back the correct one. So I'm going to go to variables. So I'm setting the house index to a random number between 0 and 3. I'm then going to display that, and then I'm going to display the value at that index within the houses array. Once I'm happy that it's correct, I'm going to take out this show number house index because I won't need it. So I'm just going to click shake here. So it's 0, and that gives me G. So remember, at index 0 is G. I'm going to shake it again. This time it's 2, so that should give me an R, which it does. I'll shake it again. It gives me a 2, which is R again. Shake it again, it's a 2. Shake it again, it's a 0. 0 again. 0s and 2s, it seems to like at the moment. There's a 1, which is for Hufflepuff. Shake it again, there's a 3 for Slytherin. So I've got all my 4 values. So again, it's just doing... So again, you'll see that the shake simulator on the microbit here isn't as good as using the microbit itself. So that's just an alternative way of doing the sorting hat. But again, if I was doing this with students, I would use the decisions to check the value of the house index here first and work through it that way. But then if you wanted to use the arrays here, it's just a very nice and slick way of doing that as well. So hopefully you found this useful.